Welcome to the Catalyst for Growth podcast, a place where we talk about everything under the sun regarding the journey of the professional salesperson. Welcome the host of the C4G Sales Success podcast, John Kailunas II. Take it away, big guy.
So welcome everybody to our first kickoff podcast.
Well, I guess our first would be the kickoff, Kevin.
It would be the kickoff. Struggling for the words. So excited.
Well, it's our first one, right?
Yeah.
It's the kickoff.
Yes, what we're going to be talking about. It's got me all so excited. I'm not even sure what I'm going to say next. Right. So.
Well, there's a ton of material we have to share with advisors and wholesalers, anybody in professional sales. I mean, Kevin and I both have had a pretty long career, and we decided that we get asked questions all the time, whether we're on the road presenting or advisors we're working with, or outside wholesalers that we're working with, and we decided that we can create a format to help educate people and help propel people. We've been blessed, and we think we've got a lot of great things to share with people, and this is a great format to do it. So every week you're going to be getting a half hour to an hour worth of content, and our goal here is to touch your life, your practice, give you a nugget, give you an actionable item, give you something to put into your practice that's going to propel you to go higher, better, and be better. Maybe it's a better father, husband. Maybe it's a better advisor. So this is going to be really loosey-goosey. Kevin and I are going to have fun when we're doing this. We both made our bones in this business, and one of our goals is, one of the primary functions we have going forward is making sure we're having fun. So if we're not having fun, we won't be doing this. But we've got a lot of people that have asked us for this as we've gone around the country and talked about some of the things we've accomplished. And our lion's share platform is the one that sort of propelled all the C4G talk, which is Catalyst for Growth. Right.
And I would also say that from our mission standpoint is really giving back to, the industry and to people who are up and coming, because there are folks who took us aside when we were young and moving forward, and gave us the knowledge and the starts we needed to become ultimately successful. And we're going to talk about the success that John and I have had over our careers over the last since when did you start? 1988 as well.
88, something? Yeah, but it's not going to be two old guys talking about war stories. There might be a war story here or there, but the real content is going to be deliverable action items that you can use. Kevin and I got thousands of stories. We spent a lot of time with advisors across the country and many late nights sharing war stories as Kevin climbed his way up. Through the Hartford and Jackson, and then, ultimately Pacific Life, and being one of the head dogs there. And he had an illustrious career, and the amount of knowledge he has to share is extraordinary. And we're going to give you that in this podcast every single week.
Yeah. And that sort of brings us right up to what our main thought process is today. And that is to introduce you to Catalyst for Growth and give you the background of how it emerged, with the dialogue and content really being that listening to what John has really accomplished and developed and brought to this point, that you can emulate so much of what he has done with other people to affect your own business and help you reach your own dreams. And I guess before we even start out, this is what we do in most of our seminars and most of our meetings, is we just ask a simple question up front, a baseline question to make you think about what we're going to be talking about in a specific way that can help you out. So the big question that we're going to ask today is, what is your dream for your business? What is it that you want to accomplish over the next 3 to 5 years, so that you can have the business, the life, the balance, the family situation, that you'd be able to do what you want to do and have the liberty to be able to execute the freedom you have in our society today. So think about that question, kind of lock that in your mind, even if you have to write it down later. Getting to know what your dream is the first start to getting where we're going.
Kevin, you said something that's really important there. It's writing it down. You need to write down this dream, because a lot of people say they have it and it's probably in their mind, but they need to write it down. And there's a point in time that I had it actually laminated and put in my shower, and I would see it every single morning that I'd go in and get ready for work or going, out, that I would see that and I would keep that top of mind. And I think it's real important. I think a lot of advisors and wholesalers don't write down their goals, and until you write it down, it doesn't really exist. Because when you write it down, other people are going to see it. And
Yeah.
once you share it with somebody, then it becomes real and it manifests itself.
Right. And sharing, it's the most important part. I mean, you should, if it's truly a dream that you want to accomplish that has a bunch of goals in it, that dream should be shared with anyone that's important in your life that can help you get where you're going, because accountability is a big part of what we believe in. And holding yourself accountable by telling your friends, your spouse, your boss, your coworkers, someone who cares about you or a mentor, this is what I'm trying to do. Just getting them to ask you, how is it going in trying to get to your goals or trying to get to your dreams is a massive part of getting where we're going.
Well, that's exactly how I started writing the book, right? I wrote that old book in 2014, Choices and Chances. And I literally sort of laid out what we're doing and where we're going and how we're going to do it. And it was sort of my way of, sort of staking a claim that I'm going to move this thing forward. And here are my ideas to do it. And again, I've had lots of successes and lots of failures, but the team I've put around me over the years, the great people at Regal, the Bill Bests, the Brian Yarches, the Don Carlsons, the Larry Taunts, all of those guys have helped. I wouldn't be here without them and our quality staff. But I laid it out sort of, this is where we're going. And 10 years later, we're 5X of where we were when that book came out.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm going to ask you a couple questions about choices and chances in just a bit, but I don't want to skip over what we were talking about from goals and vision, because John, anybody who knows you knows you're a visionary. You have a unique ability to be able to look at someone's business, whether it's an RIA or a financial advisor, or really any business. You've done this for me and so many hundreds of other professional businesses in the United States, in that you can look and see somehow, like you're wearing polarized glasses looking in the water. You can just see things in people's businesses that they just can't see, and you can help them move forward. The vision, though, that I heard from you that I'd like to start with on this is your vision for Catalyst4Growth that kind of came from our distribution from Lionshare. It wasn't just a few years ago when I became available to be able to work with you. I essentially retired and thought maybe I would just play golf and just go fishing and just have fun for the rest of my life.
Well, trust me, you do too much of that.
I have my work balance figured out. There's no doubt.
Well, it's not work balance, it's play balance you got figured out.
Isn't that everyone? That was my dream, to get to a point where I could.
You manifested it, man. You did a great job with it.
Amen to that. But I was in this position where I was loving life, and I'm down in Florida. Out of the blue, John says, "Hey, let's meet up for a cigar and a bourbon." I don't remember the name of the place we went, but I had not been there before in Tampa.
Cigar Cathedral, I think.
The Cigar Cathedral. That was awesome. And I have a picture of that day. Your wife showed up and took a picture so we could remember that we were there. But John started to lay out this vision of wanting to take the investment strategies that are a major part of his RIA, Lionshare, and part of his broker dealer, Regulus, and it was talking about my background in distribution and wholesaling over my life. Would it be possible somehow for us to create a distribution for Lionshare where we could take these investment strategies and distribute them through sub-advisory agreements around the country? And John was so compelling in his story about, yeah, we can create a distribution, but we can really have fun while we're doing it, and we can impact people's lives like you listening today. I'm just curious, John, if you remember that vision that you shared with me at that point and what you were thinking at that time, because you put that in place. You used me to hold you accountable. And so we had a 3 to 5 year vision that was yours. And I was there to come in and hold you accountable. And it brings us to today, which is really the 3-year inflection point where we're at.
If you would like to be a guest on the C4G podcast, please contact us at info@catalyst4growth.org or 813-454-0557. Primetime players only. Bring your A game or don't contact us.
Yeah, that vision, you call it, and that's a big word. I don't wear it well. Because I think it is such a big word, and I think only truly a few people have vision. It was an idea that Bill Best and I had. Number one, people the American dream is to have their own shop. And a lot of people want to have their own RIA, and the RIA side of the business has been exploding. But there's economies of scale, like with any business. And if you're a one-man shop or a 2 or 3, 4, 5-man shop, you can't do everything. So we had this idea it came from a Fidelity leadership conference about sales enablement, of creating packages that we could put into other RIAs, whether it's marketing, whether it's a structure, strategic thinking about structure or distribution, anything that could imagine compliance and all of that, and start working with advisors and share our experience. We've had tremendous success at Regal, but we've also had some pretty big, shots to the head. And we've survived those. So I think you learn just as much from your failures as you do. Probably you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. But if I could share those with people, again, monetize our strategies, have them use our investment strategies, and give them this knowledge and all this coaching and mentoring as part of it, I thought it was a win-win, because there's a lot of people that are great advisors that aren't money managers. And there's a lot of money managers that can't get distribution. So we thought we could be that conduit in between them. And that's why your skill set, Kevin, was so important to us launching this. And you remember that thing was called Project Velocity, and we're starting to pick up speed now. We've got a bunch of sub-advisory agreements. We've got people we're coaching and mentoring and helping, and it's starting to have legs on its own. And that's why we started this podcast.
That's right. What's interesting is I remember we started off thinking about a specific target market. And, most of what we talk about is transferable. And we all know that we all have so much capacity, whether you're a salesperson or whatever you're trying to affect in your business. Capacity being, as an example, the number of sales interactions or contacts that you can actually have with your target market at any given time. But we were looking at our capacity and narrowed down our target market. We were thinking about registered investment advisors. It's the emerging, growing part of our business, and there are so many people who have split over the last several years from maybe a corporate format, and then started their own RIA or joined the environment of the IAR business, being an IAR themselves. And what they end up getting to is inflection points. This was the need we looked for. Maybe this is you. Think about, as we're talking about this, we found so many RIAs that reach a certain asset point level, assets under management, or maybe they took on, I was speaking with a guy yesterday who's in Pennsylvania, and he's talking about the fact he started his own business from scratch, and he took on basically anybody he could along the way. And now he's reached one of those inflection points where he's like, what do I do now?
You get to these plateaus, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that was very hard for me to learn, when we had a great staff when we hit 5 million, but that staff and those people, the leadership people I had with me, my team, we couldn't get to 10 million together. And when we got to 10 million, I couldn't get to 15 million. And I'm talking about gross revenue here, right? So you've got to constantly make those changes, and you got to build your infrastructure. You got to invest a ton, and you get to these plateaus. And in our industry, it's real easy for an advisor to become a lifestyle advisor. When they hit a plateau that's comfortable, change is difficult, right? And so they're making enough money to have a wonderful life. They don't push themselves any further. And so we call those lifestyle reps, and you'll hear us refer to that over these podcasts over the coming, sessions. Yeah. But I think it's real important to understand that you're going to hit these plateaus, and how do you knock yourself out of those plateaus? Because it's a rut, right? And that's what we'll hopefully be giving you, pearls and anecdotes and small ideas and big thoughts that you'll be able to move you out of those ruts and help you grow.
Yeah. So if we circle back to what we were just talking about, inflection points and ruts and target markets, one of the things we were talking about with this advisor yesterday that we're only talking about because he's the most current guy coming on to our C4G platform for consulting services was, he said, I've got the right message. I've got the right trajectory. How the heck do I get my message out to my target audience? He even had the target audience down. And we were able to talk about, which we'll do in another podcast episode.
Well, what you're so brilliant at is you told me you had a 38-minute conversation with this guy, and there's 2 actionable items that'll change the trajectory of what he's doing, because he's missing that segment. Like you just said, he's got all this stuff together. He's just not implementing it in the right way to get traction.
Right.
So we're helping him clear the path. We're giving him 2 separate pieces of bio and a client process that will help him move his business forward.
That's right. And it circles back to what I just said from, John or myself being able to look at a business like yours and be able to look at it with like those polarized glasses that you just can't see it. It's opaque for you. But for us, it's much more transparent because we're looking at it from a different lens than you are. So as John just said, for this guy, all we're really going to do is create a professional biography that's used as a referral tool that has 7 elements to it. And part of some of those elements that you create into it are talking about your value proposition, what you actually do for people, and talking about key elements of your primary market. So people will read it and say, I like this guy. He's not scary at all. I need what he has to offer. And I think he's talking about me. So I better call him back. So just creating this piece is going to be beneficial for him. And then the client process is what we actually sell as RIAs and financial advisors is we're selling the process. What we know from almost every industry study that what clients want is they want not just to have goals, but they want us to make their dreams less opaque to them. They don't always know what their dreams are. Our job is to clear that up for them and help them see it. Because of all the things we say today, this is one of the takeaways that I would buy into. If you don't hear anything else today and just listen to this and start to begin to think about finding out what your clients' dreams are, whether it's retirement or income or whatever, they're not just a specific goal, but what do they want what are they dreaming that they want to do with their life for fulfillment? And you make that story real for them. Once you own that part of the relationship, nothing else matters because they want to know, one, that you can help them find their dreams, and two, you have a process that will help them reach that objective. And that's what the client process is. So we're going to build those 2 things out for this advisor, and that's going to help him move where they're going to go.
I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a roll there, but when you said how we can look into an advisor's practice, right? Because they're in the, they can't see the tree amongst the forest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like an advisor looks at a financial statement from a client, looks at all their material, and the client's like, I don't know where to put money. I don't know this. I've got credit card debt. I got all this. It's so crystal clear to a professional advisor. They'll take a look at that and know the answers right away. It's because they're not feeling that pain or that frustration of the household. They can look at it without emotion. We can look at practices like that.
Well, that's a great analogy.
We can look at practices with no pain, and we can say, listen, you've got the wrong staff. You got the right staff. You need to do this. You need to do that. We're not living in it. And sometimes it's so easy to see. Mm-hmm. It just jumps off the page, just like a good advisor can see solutions, not manufacturing, not selling a product, mind you, but seeing a solution, a path, a financial planning path for someone. It's easy for us to see that path for a practice.
I'm glad you said it that way.
I just didn't want to interrupt you because you were spitting gold there.
No, that's good stuff because the reality is I think about the feedback we get from people, whether they're advisors or clients. John and I are both run a retail business as well. So we are in sales as well as consulting. We're living what we're telling you. So we're not telling you to do something that we've never done. We're actually, everything we're going to tell you, we actually do ourselves today as well as coach it. It is a massive differentiator for when we work with people for credibility. But how often when we talk to people after, and it may only be 38 minutes, and that's what it was yesterday with this guy, that they'll say, that sounds so obvious. Why didn't I think of that? They're so close they can almost touch it and taste it.
Because you're worried about payroll. You've got to take your kid to the Little League game. You got all these things you got to do, right? All these things that stretch you. And we can come in and say, well, there's the answer. It's sort of like plain as the nose on your face. And I wish we were really bright, Kevin, and we would shock and awe people when we give them the answers. Yeah. But the whole thing is about helping people. And, we're going to go to break here, and we are going to come back, and we're going to talk about how this podcast is going to benefit you and the people around you. So thank you for tuning in. We'll get a short infomercial here, and we will be back.
All right. Well, welcome back. This is segment 2 of our kickoff podcast. What we're talking a little bit about in the first.
Look at how you've gotten better already. You said it was kickoff, it was launch or something. The first thing. Now you got it all. You got it zeroed in, Berwald.
Yeah, I'm a quick learner.
Quick learner. There we go.
But we're going to try to make it better every time every session that we do, and I'm sure we will get better as we go. We'll have a lot of fun. But in the first segment of this, we were talking about a little bit, we touched base on the lion's share distribution strategy that kind of kicked all this off. And you were talking about your vision of, penetrating the RIA market and serving them. That has been one of the most challenging distribution lines in our industry that I've ever had to deal with. And I've wholesaled in some capacity since 1988.
Everyone's trying to crack it. It's the hardest segment to crack.
Yep.
C4G is a service-disabled, veteran-owned business. Thank you, Deborah, and all those that have served our great country. You can contact C4G at info@catalyst4growth.org or call us at 813-454-0557.
And I think the reality is that, and I think for those of you who are in that business and distribution, when you try to go after that market, a lot of these folks who, and you listening today, registered investment advisors, really see themselves as the primary manager of the investments in the portfolios themselves.
And that's where the big bomb drops, right? Because that's truly shouldn't be their value added. Their value is the way they conduct their experiences with the client, how they get the client to their end goal, to that dream.
Yeah.
Money management, is irrelevant in that whole overall goal.
Yeah.
It's I shouldn't say irrelevant because I don't want to minimize it, but it is not the primary thing. And people hang their hat that they're the best money manager. This, my alpha's this, I did this, look at where I'm ranked. Well, as soon as you start comparing where you rank, is exactly where you're going to have a bad year. And then you have no story to tell. The story you need to tell is your client process and how you take care of people. But that's going to be a podcast in the future, because that's why people aren't penetrating this market, is because the simple fact that everyone thinks they can do it better. And I'm sorry, there's companies that spend hundreds of millions of dollars with buildings full of CFAs are going to outmanage you and pick up opportunities that a three-man shop in Poughkeepsie isn't going to be able to figure out.
Yeah. And by the way,
was that a Bugs Bunny? Oh, no, Bugs Bunny was Albuquerque, right?
Well, he had a lot of cool, it could have been Pismo Beach.
He did do Pismo Beach.
But I know that's painful for some people to listen to, because they take a lot of pride in their identity is in their money management, and they put so much time and effort into it. And they may, and people do have unique strategies,
and new ideas, and how to position those ideas in people's minds. That's where the genius is.
Yeah. You know what the problem though is, when that investment strategy blows up in that 1 year that it does, you can't fire yourself.
No, it's very difficult, but the client will fire you.
Yeah, no doubt. And the other negative part about that to think about long-term is that when you try to value your business when you're going to sell it, if you are the portfolio manager and you are selling, and that's the core of your business, when you sell, your multiples go down. And one thing that John, just before he jumps in here, because he's all of a sudden ready to get up and dance, this is his forte, is helping advisors how you can promote your business and build it up so you get the right multiples on the sale.
Yeah, Bill Best, our CFO and COO, has come up with a really great valuation tool. And I think he's taken that tool from many other places in his years of experience, and he's put together sort of a valuation. If you're a small retail practice, you're going to get 2 to 3, depending on how it is. If you're the money manager, it is a deduction on the value of the practice.
You're saying a multiple of 2 or 3 times? Is that what you mean by 2 or 3?
Of revenue.
Yep.
Larger shops, they go by EBITDA. And the multiples are much higher, but EBITDA is obviously a lower number. But if you're the money manager and you want to retire, you can't retire and sell your practice.
Yeah,
because your practice, you just decrease the value. But that's a podcast for another time. Yeah. We'll have Bill on, actually. Bill would be a great one to talk about practice valuations.
Yeah. So the transition of what we're talking about here is, we made this mistake ourselves. One of the great things about Lion's Share is it has 60-some investment strategies that we use with our own IARs or RIAs that we're affiliated with. And some of them, we're high on. There's an investment strategy called DIB Plus that uses covered calls and generates just an amazing amount of income with a very low volatility level, with dividends plus covered calls on aristocrat stocks. I use it myself. I love this investment strategy, but you know what? When we went out and talked to RAs about it initially, when we were talking about distribution, they didn't care. They just did not care. All these investment strategies, some of them are just amazing, great performance, Gibbs verified, 10-year track records. You'd think they'd want them. You know what? They didn't. What they wanted is when we started talking more about the practice management stuff, the valuing their business, the compliance, all the elements of their business. Because if you think about what we were talking about, the RAs that are at an inflection point where they want to grow, they're trying to figure out how to make their life easier. They have a problem they want to solve, which is generally a problem that comes on them from their own core issue, which is them being mostly solo and by themselves. Our transition to Catalyst for Growth, and I don't know if we mentioned the website yet, but if you guys want to learn more about Catalyst for Growth, the website is Catalyst, the number 4, growth, spelled out, .org. Catalyst4Growth.org. Is that we started talking more about helping them build and grow their business and all the sometimes anything other than investment strategies. And that's what piqued their interest. When we could actually show them how to get more clients, how to get more referrals, how to make their business easier, all of a sudden we got the traction and people would say to us, all right, let's take a look at your investment strategies.
You know, Kevin, that's what made you a great wholesaler. You used to come into our shop and talk about how you could help build a business. It wasn't the annuity you were selling, right? It wasn't the company that backed you. It was the value you brought. And that's what most advisors make a mistake, is they don't show that value of how they can help a client grow and client get to their goal. And what a lot of product manufacturers don't show the advisors is how they can grow. So that's really sort of the catalyst for growth. And I want to make note that you can go to www.catalyst4growth.org, and on there is the disclosures that we need to make the lawyers happy. And then you can also go to regalholdings.com and see all the disclosures that, again, will make all the attorneys and all the regulators happy. So we don't want to specifically, we're not going to talk a lot about investments here at all. We're going to talk about practice management. But when we do, we've got to throw those disclosures in, because we want to make sure that all the regulators and everybody's happy with what we're doing here on our podcast. Yes. Don't get us in trouble, Berwald.
Right. I'm going to try not to ever again, but I probably will. So the point is we got to this point where we all of a sudden started, John and I were having a conversation about 1.5 years, 2 years into it, about we were giving away. I remember John specifically saying one time, he goes, Kevin, we're giving our best stuff away, helping these people grow their practice. I remember the one business, you were out east, you looked at their books and you figured out how to save them. It was like a $250,000.
It was actually $400,000. It was in their recruiting, the way they had their recruiting.
That's what it was.
And how they were giving recruiting fees in perpetuity. And I'm like, nobody does that, number one. And number two, this is recruiting advisors. And I said, where'd you come up with this? Well, he goes, that's what I'd want if I was an advisor. And I said, well, as a business owner, you just created a liability forever. And when I explained it to him, he's like, oh no. And they changed it that next morning.
$400,000 mistake. And then John tells me the story and says, Kevin, we're giving our best stuff away.
I said, I actually flew out to help the guy, sat in his room. They bought me dinner, but I worked with them for a day and a half, and literally saved them all that money and flew back on my own dime. And I'm like, I want to help people. I want to help people grow, but I'm a business person. It's got to be fair and equitable for all of the knowledge and stuff that we've received over the years and built. We've got to obviously be remunerated for our time, because if you listen to the first segment, we want to have fun. You can't have fun when you're broke.
Yeah. It's very difficult.
I don't see a lot of people broke having a good time. Yeah. So I don't want to be that guy.
And it's even worse if your clients are going broke when you're managing their money. So we decided not to give our best stuff away anymore. And that's where we created Catalyst for Growth, so that folks who could not or would not use our investment strategies for lion's share with a sub-advisory agreement, that we could actually help them and they could pay us a fee as they would any consulting firm, so that we can go in, and our next podcast, as a quick teaser, is on the IQL process. And so we can now walk into a practice or any business, and we can actually use the IQL process, which won the 2023, it was the winner for the Wealthies. And the IQL program, which stands for Increase Your Quality of Life, won the number 1 practice management system for employees under 1,000 or under 1,000 employees in a business last year. So we have one of, if not the top-rated practice management system that we can use. We'll talk about that in our next.
We've got a ton of content and a ton of things to share with you folks, and we want to do that. We want to make sure that, one of our goals is before we leave this industry, we leave it better than we found it. That old Boy Scout tradition, right, of a campsite. And this industry is going through a lot of changes, and the leadership is pretty fractured. You've got large firms just acquiring and gobbling up things through venture capital. And you've got the regulators pounding, managing to the lowest common denominator, all of which the consumers are sort of trapped in the middle. So the independent advisor is very valuable in the education and of the client, and also the attainment of wealth and the preserving of wealth in the United States. So we want to keep that on track and do what we can to help you guys become better every single week.
Yeah, and help you reach that goal we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. What is your dream goal? Where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? And then we want you to challenge us with what are the problems that are stopping you from reaching it. Again, that's in the IQL process that
we have in our client, in our C4G process that we run through, we have a meeting that's actually called the shenanigans meeting, which I termed it after Kevin. Kevin uses the term shenanigans, and when he publicly speaks, he says, "You can call shenanigans on me." And so I've actually put that in our process, because if you don't have buy-in, right, one of the things that makes us really good is that we have accountability with you, and you have a relationship with us, and we call you up and say, "Listen, we're supposed to have this done by this date," and you didn't. So to do that, in order to have that type of relationship and be able to coach and mentor people, what we need to do is have a session called the shenanigans meeting, where if you're not buying in to everything we're saying and you don't agree to it, there's no way to coach you. So you're going to say, "Listen, here's the solutions you guys laid out for me. I don't like this. I don't think this is going to work. I don't believe this." And we call that the shenanigans meeting, because we'll bring facts, we'll bring experience, we'll bring examples of why it did work. We didn't recommend it because it was flawed. We recommend it because we know we're confident in its ability to succeed. But I use this term all the time now, and I heard this, and I wish I knew who to attribute it to. But the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. And I love that line. And that's sort of the shenanigans meeting, right? If you agree to something and we vetted it every possible way, we've sliced and diced and chopped it like the old Vegemite, and you agree to it, then, let's get to work and let's get it done, and let's change where you want to go and the trajectory of your business, and also your family life.
Yeah, and that buy-in, really, what comes to my mind is we can't want you to be successful more than you want to be successful. So we've got to figure out what you want, not what we want for you. And then we hold each other accountable. So let's circle back, this is really another funny part of the story, interesting part of the story we're tuning into is, when I first met John, he was just building his business. He had this vision of growing what he grew into to his broker-dealer, and very charismatic, very caring, high energy, still has more capacity than any person I know to work almost 24 hours a day and really be successful. But he got to the point where he grew his business, and then in 2014, he wrote your book, your first book, Choices and Chances. And the funniest thing about this book is we'd been talking about it a little bit for the first couple years of working together with Lionshare and Catalyst4Growth. And out of the blue, John says, I think I need to rewrite this book and bring it up to date. And so I picked it up and read through it again. And what I realized was what an absolute gem this book is, because what John did is he was able to catalog and write down the story of how he built Regal Holdings and the resources, Regulus, the broker-dealer, Regal Investment Advisors, the RIA, Lionshare, the distribution, Regal Financial. And these firms, he built them all, and then he wrote down in writing in this book how he did it, and this is the key. He wrote down what you should probably do to build your business going forward. Ironically, in 2024, earlier this year, I picked the book up and looked at it, and I said, John, you actually wrote down what we're doing today, what you suggested people should do, but you put it in action. And over that last decade, from 2014 to 2024, you grew your own assets under management.
Oh, the firm. Yeah.
The firm, from $450 million to over $2.5 billion. 500 times, 5x, and he wrote it in a book and then did it. And that's the type of information that he shares with you. So what are your thoughts on that book and what you do?
First of all, I'm really humbled that we've been able to do that, and that it's a whole team effort. I mean, it's just I get credit for it, but there's a whole bunch of people that made that happen. We have an incredible staff. We have good leadership here, so that can't go without being said. And then I'm also embarrassed because I'm thinking I'm being a schmuck here and being lazy, and I need to rewrite this book because we've grown so much. And we talked about the advisors missing the obvious. I missed the obvious there, that it actually is sort of like I was a Babe Ruth. I was calling my shot, right? I was pointing to center field and saying, this is what I'm going to do. And everyone told me that you're not going to do it, man. You're undercapitalized. You're not smart enough. You don't have the resources. You don't have the right people around you. I heard more reasons why we weren't going to grow than when we were. And not from you, Kevin. You've always been incredibly supported, but peers, right? So I just sort of, threw up my middle finger, put my blinders on, and went to work and tried to be passionate about what we're doing. But the principles are simple and they can be taught. I've been blessed to sort of pick it up around. I've been brought through a lot of leadership training programs from, one of the first diversity training programs in 1999 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, to YPO leadership, which is International Young Presidents Organization. I've been fortunate to lead that group in several capacities. So, and then all of the industry training, man, all of the speaking and all of the opportunities and the great people I've run across. So I've sort of been a sponge and soaked it up. And that's essentially why we created this podcast, is so you can start soaking up some of the wisdom from Kevin and our guests that we're going to be bringing on.
Yeah, good stuff. So that book's available to you. You can get it online, but we'd love to give it to you when you have a conversation with us and we talk about helping you grow your business. So I think that's kind of bringing us down.
So wait, when we're giving away my book, are you buying it, giving it away?
Well, I think you're the one with $2.5 billion under assets.
I don't like the way the math works out.
I'm just an outsider. Well, I
think your book sells more than mine. So I want to get a share of it. If you're giving mine away for free, I want to share yours.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of books, right? So anyway, the long and short is I think we're coming down to
in the end here for the first one.
Yeah, and so I just want to go back to the beginning, and I think we have two major objectives in what we're doing. One, as John said, we've made our bones. Neither of us ever have to work a day in our lives again if we don't want to. We're blessed by God and what He's given to us. So what we're doing is we're trying to give back, and we're trying to help you get where you're going. And so as we share these things with you, at the end of every one of these podcasts, we want to make sure we give you at least one actionable item, something to do to help change your practice immediately that you can implement, that's transferable from us to you today. And so we started out, we've mentioned it several times, man, you got to get your dream down, your own dream. You got to decide what you want to move towards, or you're just floating nowhere. I'm not talking about specific goals, just trying to hit one goal. I'm talking about a dream of where you want to be that affects other people, where your life is how you want it to be, and how you're affecting other people and who you spend time with and the activities that you want to do. Could be charitable, whatever it is. What is your dream and what do you want to get to? And then number two, once you figure that out, I'd like you to begin to transfer and think about every client, every new prospect you talk to. And they throw it in our business. They're saying, well, what are your fees? What's your performance in your management? You know what? They're always going to ask those types of questions. They're commoditized. They can get most of those answers on the internet. They don't need us anymore with AI and the internet the way it's developed over time. And just to change that question and say, before we talk about any of that, what are you trying to do? Let's find out what your dream is. So let's figure out what your dream retirement looks like, or let's figure out what why are you trying to grow this wealth so that you can have the liberty to be able to live the life you want in this free country that we're in, be able to call your shots because you have the money that you have to be able to do what you want to do, and make that dream less opaque. If you can just create their dream and let them see it and let them know that you're able to help them achieve that dream, you're going to change your business right now, immediately. So write down your own dream and start asking about people what their dreams are and talk about solving that. If I were to twist that And one other way to maybe see it a different way, it's to stop saying the things to your clients, even in your marketing material, that you want to say about yourself because they don't care. And start saying the things and only talking about the things that your clients and the people reading your marketing material want to hear. It's what they want to hear, not what we want to say.
And that's, Kevin, why they call it financial service and not financial sales. So we're here to serve people. So the way you serve people, if you go to a restaurant, you don't tell them what they're going to get. They tell you, and you help and guide them through a menu, and then you give them the entree that they want, and you give them great service, and they have a phenomenal experience. That's what we're doing. So let's serve people. Let's do it right. And let's tune in next week together so we can spend some more time. We're going to talk about IQL next week, which is our increase your quality of life and the philosophy behind that. It's not life coaching, so don't worry about flipping the channel here on us. You want to make sure that you tune in. This is a very powerful process that we built a lot of our whole platform on. And it's customized. So you'll find out that about 80% of what we do is standardized, and the last 20% is customized, and it can make you shine like a new penny. So thank you for your attention today. We'll talk to you next week.
Have a profitable day.
Hey, thank you for your time today. We will have another content-packed session posted next week. Please check our website, Catalyst4Growth.org, for our legal disclosures on the bottom of our homepage, if you're into that sort of thing.